This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at ease.com, California's top one-stop website for legal marijuana delivery, as well as an option for the same for folks living in the Portland, Oregon area. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, September 30th, 2019, and you're tuned in to episode 808 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We start the week's news off in Washington state, where on Friday, Governor Jay Inslee announced that he was issuing an emergency ban on the sale of flavored vaporizing products, which include both nicotine and cannabis consumables. The executive order will go before the Washington State Health Board on October 9th, and if approved, will go into effect the following day and will be good for 120 days after that, with the possibility of being renewed. Governor Inslee cited the potential dangers to children as justification for the ban, conflating nicotine addiction with the recent health problems seen manifesting in hundreds of hospital visits and 13 deaths. As in states like Massachusetts that have imposed a similar measure, Washington state vaporizer retailers are not happy about the ban, as it would likely push them out of business. Governor Inslee also pitched the executive order as the start of a process that he hoped would continue in the state legislature. A good one to read today for sure. We continue to focus on the vaporizer health scare with our second top headline as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, issued a report on Friday detailing what the agency knows so far about the potential causes. This is another one that you have to read in full yourself today, but in short, the CDC said that most of the cases attributed to the use of vaporizers involve vapes containing THC, and that most of those were from the illicit market, with the fictitious brand Dank Vapes showing up in a remarkable 2/3 of reports. The CDC is also reporting that the two states that saw the bulk of initially reported health scares were Illinois and Wisconsin, both which currently prohibit adult use cannabis. Read this story. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Our final story is about, you guessed it, vaporizing. NBC News just published a story about the ongoing public crisis in which they submitted for analytical testing 18 different vaporizer cartridges purchased from both legal and licensed dispensaries as well as illicit dealers. The testing company Cannabis looked at the 18 vape cartridges, 3 from legal dispensaries and 15 from illicit dealers, and found that 13 out of the 15 illegally sold cartridges contain vitamin E acetate, a filler liquid that can be used to extend the use of more costly THC oil, but that is not intended for use in vaporizers. The company also tested 10 of the illicit cartridges for pesticides and fungicides and found that all 10 contain myclobutanil, a fungicide that can convert to cyanide under the application of heat. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, ease.com, California's top one-stop website for legal marijuana delivery, as well as the same for folks living in the Portland, Oregon area. Everyone over at Ease is happy and excited about the launch of the new Momentum Business Accelerator, which is starting off by giving 10 legal marijuana entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities $50,000 each in startup money and access to all kinds of resources and advisors to help them bring their cannabis vision to life. The 10-week program will be led by 40 industry volunteer experts and will culminate in the 10 entrepreneurs pitching to groups of venture capitalists in the pursuit of further funding. This is a great program that I expect will produce some really interesting new businesses. Swing over to ease.com/home to find the article detailing all the cool things that the Momentum program participants will look forward to and to learn more about applying yourself. That's ease.com, spelled E-A-Z-E. Big thanks to everyone at Ease for the support that helps us keep our news lights on. All right, time for the Blitz. Kyle Yeager over Marijuana Moments spent his weekend crafting a long and comprehensive breakdown of last week's vote by the House of Representatives to pass legislation allowing banks to work with state legal marijuana operators. The Safe Banking Act passed by a count of 321 to 103, garnering nearly every single Democratic vote and a little less than half of the conservative vote. Kyle further parses how the vote carried in terms of which representatives came from legal cannabis states, because that's super important in this storyline, as well as how the vote compares to past pieces of legislation in terms of the overall support of legal cannabis among lawmakers. It's good to see our very own Mike Liszewski, a regular on our show Marijuana Today, quoted in this story in his capacity as Senior Regulatory Affairs Counsel at Forefront Ventures, which is run by another Marijuana Today regular and host, Chris Crane. Senate Banking Chair Republican Mike Crapo of Idaho told Politico last week that he thought that the passage in the House of the Safe Banking Act was a good catalyst for similar action in the Senate. Senator Crapo said that he would like to see the banking legislation go up for a vote in the Senate by the end of the year, but hasn't indicated which actual bill he'd like to see put forth, as he has his own marijuana banking bill in the works. I think it's important to note that generally the GOP Senate has been a graveyard for any kind of legislation that's not tax cuts for billionaires, and Republican lawmakers aren't really known for keeping their words about anything, so keep that in mind. The Marietta Daily Journal has an interesting local story up about the proliferation of CBD shops and products in Cobb County, Georgia, where in the last year and a half, at least 9 new shops selling CBD have opened up. Traditional smoke shops are converting over to CBD branding, and gas stations and convenience stores are stocking up on CBD products. It's a small slice of a larger national storyline around the CBD boom, but one that I think is worthy at looking at. In Idaho late last week, 3 truck drivers who were arrested earlier this year on felony drug charges after they were pulled over driving large loads of industrial hemp have had their charges reduced to misdemeanors. Drivers Dennis Polarmachuk, whose case we've reported on here before, Eric Eisenhart, and Andrew Daddario all faced real jail time for their April arrests, but thankfully will be going home with a few $1,000s in fines paid and having already served 5 days in jail, in the case of Mr. Polarmachuk. Former boxer and current marijuana entrepreneur Mike Tyson is working on a project to bring his marijuana brand to the island's nation of Antigua and Barbuda, located right where the Caribbean and Atlantic Oceans meet. Antigua and Barbuda were slammed by a hurricane back in 2017, a storm that destroyed most of the buildings on Barbuda, forcing the evacuation of the entire island to sister island Antigua. Tyson wants to build a cannabis-themed farm and resort that would host, among other events, an annual marijuana leadership conference pitched as the Davos of Cannabis, referring to the annual World Economics Forum meetings in Davos, Switzerland, where the world's leading power brokers get together to plot things out. The Chicago Tribune picked up on the growing interest by legal marijuana companies in locating new adult use dispensaries in border towns close to other states that have not yet so far legalized adult use themselves. Illinois is in the process of opening up full-blown adult use legalization, and towns and cities close to bordering states are finding themselves to be objects of interest among hopeful legal marijuana dispensary operators. We're seeing the same thing happen in Massachusetts, so I think this one might be worth a full read yourself, as I think it's likely to happen anywhere there's disparity between bordering state cannabis laws. Our final story today is also wrapped up in vaporizers, as a Los Angeles City Council member is calling for a 1-year ban on vaporizers in the city, a move that is being called a possible extinction event for some LA marijuana businesses. The proposed ban was put forth by Los Angeles City Council member Paul Krikorian and is officially pending before committee. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Ease, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.